Hi, everybody out there in cyberspace. My name's Sharif, and today we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of working for yourself versus working for others. So, first, I want to start with the fact that, a lot of people, automatically think that working for yourself is just deemed for failure, that you're definitely not going to get anywhere, and that you're gonna have a tough job on your hands to actually be able to earn a living, let alone do well, let alone be comfortable, let alone not be, horribly struggling. The first thought people have is that you're gonna probably end up a bum or gonna be one or close to one for a long time before you. And there, of course, there is truth to that, and there's good reason for them to think that. But I wanted to say something really interesting about that mentality, which is that the fact that you have most people, sure, it's true, most companies will fail, like 90% of businesses fail, or maybe it's 99% or whatever. But think about it, how many people are just not even going to start? How many people are not even going to give it a try? Think about how many people are likely to tell you it's not going to work, or you're better off trying to, just work for someone else in the end. Um, I mean, there's a lot to be said for, working for somebody else and learning and gaining experience and maybe starting your own thing on the side, or after you've already, established yourself through working for others to start your thing. Of course, that's highly recommended in most fields. But if you never have it in your mind, in your vision, that you're going to be working for yourself at some point, you're never going to get close to it, no matter how much potential you have to do that. But the thing I wanted to say was that all these people who tell you that you can't do it, let's say it's 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, hundreds of thousands, millions of people who telling you or who are saying that it can't be done, they're not even starting. So you know what's happening? They're not starting, which means that gives you the opportunity to take their place. If these hundreds of thousands, millions of people were all saying, yeah, you can be done, anyone can do it, you just got to go for it, and then they were all going for it and they were all doing, imagine the amount of competition you'd have. Well, the reality is there are still millions of people who are doing it, but there's even more people who aren't doing it. And developing a niche from that is a great opportunity. And I also want to say that, okay, let's imagine that everybody was like that, and everybody was doing it, and that competition was high. Still, only the people who are going to stick to it to the end, who actually care about it, they're not just, jumping on a trend. They're not doing it because it seems like it's easy or it's a sure bet, but rather because they truly, deep down, want to do it and will stick to it through thick and thin, whether it works out well or not. They're going to figure it out. They're going to get through the difficulties. They're going to raise the level, and they're going to be constantly bringing value, through that commitment, and daily work, solving problems at higher levels, and getting more people that value. So that is going to be the key anyway. Even if all the odds are against you, even if you have the perfect opportunity, you're not going to make the most of it over the long term if you don't have that sort of, vision to keep going, and, more long term, more than just a singular goal, but always going to the next higher goal, basically. And with a constant process of always leveling up and improving, which is going to be absolutely required. So I'm just saying that, yeah, most people are going to say no, but that's your advantage. The fact that most people are saying no means that when you say yes, you're different. And that automatically makes you much more likely to succeed. All you have to do now is stick to it. And even if everyone said yes and everyone was going for it, it doesn't matter, because only the ones who stick to it to the end and who are able to bring the most value, even if they're lucky at first or if they're failing at the beginning, they're not going to last over the long term, and consistently, unless they're into it for the long term and for something more than just, going through the motions, but actually doing something that has importance and meaning to your life and the lives of others as much as possible. And that's really coming from an authentic and genuine place. And then so the advantages of working for others, I would say in general, is you don't have to decide. You don't have to decide for yourself. Other people are deciding for you. Your schedule's pretty much going to be based upon what others are asking of you. You're going to have, a routine based upon what are the standards or the policies of where you're working. I mean, nowadays things are getting more flexible. There's more telecommunications and stuff. You have to be more independent. You learn that if you're coming from a post-secondary education place, you still have to be quite independent in managing your time and what you do. But in general, when you're working for others, whether it be at a low level, regular labor job, whether it be at a high level, a technical or information technology, or even a business marketing job, if you're working for others, you're being told what that you need to get done. Sure, on the side you can go and come up with your own initiatives, your side business or whatever, but in that work, when you're working for others, you don't have to decide. So actually, this is a wonderful thing in a sense that you don't have that responsibility. It's not all on you. I mean, of course it depends. If you end up in the top of a company, okay, the responsibility does become on you, but that just changes the whole situation. But all I'm trying to say is that's actually both a blessing and a curse in either case. So if you are working independently on your own, the blessing is you get to decide everything. You can choose what you want to represent, what you don't want to represent. How are you going to implement a certain strategy? What kind of products you're going to make, and which direction you want to take, and how you're going to grow, and how you're going to improve, and how you're going to take feedback. What point in that feedback is going to mean something to you? What are you going to disregard, and what are you going to be inspired from, or what can you bring that's different, against what you're seeing out there? It's staying in line with your integrity. You get to decide everything, but at the same time, that's the curse because you have to decide everything when you're doing an independent business, when you're doing your own thing, and you have your own system for getting the stuff done, or your own team to work with, and you're the major investor, let's say, or you're the owner. You really need to decide. You have to do a lot of the decision making, and you could go ahead and try to get others to decide for you to help, but then where's your direction? Where's your vision? Where's your hold? You don't have a strategy. You're not building it around yourself. That's one small grain in the rice bowl, what other people think and their feedback and advice. In the end, you still have to decide. And I mean, it's also true when you're working for others, but in a more micro sense, but you never have those kind of stakes unless, like I said, you're at a very high position in those companies where it ends up being almost the same thing anyway. So, but that's, the disadvantage as well of working for others. You don't get to decide. You don't get to say, hey, I want this to be a little different. You can make suggestions. You can, if you want, you might be able to. Like I said, even if you are in a high position, you might not be able to do that. You still might have to fight for it. You may still have to, go around what other people are thinking. You might even have to concede and say, okay, it can't be done. And then outside of the time that you have to dedicate to someone else's idea or the agreed idea that may not be what you think is the best, after spending all the time on that, on the side, you'd have to create some more time to do it your way, just to show that, this works better when you do it. Maybe someone else, it's not going to work for them when they do it because they have a totally different perspective, or even objectively, most people, it might make a lot of sense. But they can't know that you can do it, and not everybody knows you the way you can do it. So you'd have to do it then. But then on top of that, since you're working with others, then you also have to do their thing too. You see how much more complicated and stressful that is. So that could be a problem, especially if you're trying to do your own thing. Now, if you're not trying to do your own thing, working for others is ideal. You don't want to probably work on your own and be independent if you're not trying to do your own thing. You're just happy to be part of something. That's really your dream. It's you're looking more to do something more finite, as part of something else, rather than being the center of it or the impetus of it. And like, let's say you're just not as much of a control freak, let's put it in a simple way. But that's the thing. You really have to be a control freak if you want to go independent, if you want to be the owner. Even if you're working with others, if you have a high level of responsibility, a lot is on you, and you're supposed to be doing those decisions. You can't be, divining an oracle or something. You have to, learn and research and come up to your own conclusions, connect your own dots together, form your own image. as to what you want to achieve, and then you can achieve it. Um, but remember that if you're going to do your own thing, you're going to have to decide and you're going to have to create that map. There's no one creating it for you like when you work for somebody else. And when you work for somebody else, you have to accept that there's going to be times where it's going to be no to whatever it is you think, even if it is perfect, like to you, like you know that it's going to work absolutely if you do it that way and that thing, and maybe it will, but when you're working with others, you gotta sometimes deal with that fact that they're gonna say no, and you still have to do what they want you to do, and then you still want to do what you want to do, so you have to figure out a way. So that's what I'm saying. So to consider that if you really want to take control, if you want to be the head and in charge, find a way to get started on your own thing. Maybe, like I said, on the side to start. But the more you're in control, the more you're making decisions, the more you can find out, are you right about your idea? Is it true? Is it going to work out? And if it doesn't, that's the best way to learn. If people tell you no and then you just stop there, okay, maybe they were right. Maybe it wasn't going to succeed. But you don't really know until you do it firsthand. And you're going to feel much worse if you find out that it could have succeeded, but you didn't because somebody else did, than you will when you find out it doesn't succeed, but at least you give it a shot. And then you can build up off of that. You can't build up off of nothing, off of not trying, off of not doing something. You can only build up off of the things you get done. So anyway, I hope this helps you, whatever path you're on. Whether you're thinking, I don't want to work for others anymore, but you don't realize just how much responsibility you're really going to have to take. And yeah, you can follow other people's models and patterns, but it's still in the end, you have to decide what is the one that's, and how does it going to implement into your world? No one's world is the same. It's always going to have to take some creativity on your part. And and you might want a lot of creativity, but you have to be ready for an extreme amount. You can always get others' help and advice to get you started. And if you're, so you have to really wait what that means before you do it. And another thing, if you're, super stressed out because you're already trying to do your own thing, you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, you know, like I said, you got to think about the decision making. How are you going to reduce the amount of decisions that you need to make and still have the same kind of impact, still achieve what you're trying to achieve? Maybe you can start, working with others, working for others for a bit, just to get you back in the mindset of what are people doing, what is working, what do you think is going to work for you, and the kind of thing you're doing. It might have to be different, but you're going to need that perspective to calibrate from. That's why you always need to be learning and you always need to be studying. So that's so key in either case. But I mean, personally, from my view, I figure it might as well be for your overall mission and what you truly want to do. And sometimes that can't, you know, truly be decided by anyone else but you. Um, and someone else might want something different, but you just got to know what you're getting into and see that there is no absolute ideal situation in that one is absolutely going to be better than the other. The ideal situation is going to be decided what is your ideal, but just know what it is, in terms of practically when you actually do it against what you think it is, before you decide, oh, this is definitely it. Know that you're going to have to take all the responsibility when you work for yourself, and that in working for others, you're going to have to sometimes work around what you truly want to do. And I don't just mean like, oh, only the fun stuff, because even when you work for yourself and you get to decide everything, there's still going to be tons of stuff that's not fun. But it's deciding what kind of stuff that's not fun that you think is worth doing because of your vision, rather than, let's say you're working for someone else and there's not fun stuff that has to be done, stuff that's not fun, but you don't feel that it's bringing you to where you really want to go, then it's not good. If you feel it is and you're working with others, then you're in the perfect situation. You don't even have to decide as much. But at least for people, I think, who have a lot of vision and who can really see where they want to go, oftentimes it's, unless you're like on the same mind length and you've got like that right team, that right people, you're probably going to be building up someone else's world, rather than your own. Uh, Ideally, our worlds can all harmonize, But that can't happen until you're clear about your world and where you're working from. Um, and that way there can be a lot of growth because amazing relationships can happen between multiple independents. And that's pretty much how, most large businesses grow and get happening. So really in the end, I think you do kind of got to work for yourself if you want to keep rising up. If you're happy to, reach a certain level and that's good for you, and that's fine for a lot of people, especially if they like to spend their time in other things outside of work a lot more, and the kind of work they want to get into doesn't have that kind of impact, but it means something to them and it's important for them, and that has the most impact for them in their lives, then that's fine. That's great. And know that. Don't try to, you know, bite off more than you can chew. And also realize that if you are going for that, you're going to have to take care of everything. So I hope that was a helpful video for you. Got your mind going about, hey, you know what? I can do this. A lot of people are saying no. That's my opportunity. They're saying no. They're not there. I can step in there, you know. And okay, and there's also a lot of people doing these kind of things as well. And why is it that some are doing better than others? Who's bringing the value? Who's sticking to it until the end? Who is being authentic? And who is always raising the levels? That's what it comes down to. And I hope that was easy enough to understand. And to catch any more daily updates, check out productionhackers.net. This has been Sharif. I'll see you next time. Bye now.